Hello friends, good morning. Welcome to the next video of the Nukkadcode, and in this video we are going to learn about the very basic concepts that we must know about understanding object-oriented concept. So before diving deep into the object-oriented concept, we are going to learn about these very important concepts that every developer must know. So what are those things that every developer must know before entering or diving into the concept of object-oriented programming? So let's discuss about that. So in this video we are going to learn about the very basic concept, that is instance variable, what are local variables, what is a class, what are members, so what are arguments, what are parameters of a method, and what is the method signature. So these things which are very important to know for every developer, we are going to learn in this section. So let's start. So first of all, let us understand about data members. What are members of a class? So suppose we have a simple class dog, that is public class dog with its name and size. Suppose its name name is string name, and it's the size, that is int size. Okay. And we have a method, simple method, that is eat, public void eat, and simply it says dog eating, return dog eating as a string, and this our class is closed here. Okay. So here the variable name and size, and we have a method wait. These three things here, that is all the things here defined in a class, that is name, size, and eat method, are called members. Okay. So all the variables that are defined inside a class, or all the methods that are defined in a class, may be static or non-static, which we will cover later. So these are called data members, or simply members. Simply saying members, all the methods and variables inside a class are called members. Now going specific about the members. So specifically, if we say here that these variables, that is string name and size, what are these? So in a class, all the variables, these are variables, simply these are variables, but in a class, those variables which are inside a class and outside of a method, which are inside a class and outside of a method, those are called instance variables. I think you got it clear here, that all the variables which are inside a class and outside any method are called instance variables. What do you think about the value currently hold in these two variables, that is name and size? So let me tell you, instance variables always get the default value, that is for name, if it is string, it is going to be null, and for size, it is going to be the default value. For int, it is going to be 0. So the point to remember here is instance variables always get default values. Instance variables always get default value. I think you are clear with the concept of instance variables. Now let's understand the method signature. So next concept which we are going to learn about method signature. Method signature. So let's understand the concept of method signature. Suppose we have method public void at, and inside it we have two variables, int x and int y, and in the side the body of this method, that is all the code which are between curly all the code that are between curly braces are called body of the method. So this is this portion from curly braces to this curly brace, it is body of the method. Now here we have public void add int x int y, and suppose this method is returning x plus y. So let's understand the signature, that is method signature. Here this public that is type of access for here this public tells about the visibility of this method. If it is public, that is access modifier. If it is public, then this method add method is visible to all the classes, and it can be accessed from anywhere. And if it is private, then it can it is visible to only the class in which this method is written. So this tells about the visibility of the method. Now this void is the return type. Return type means what this method returns. So I have written here return x plus y. So I will tell you the concept why this is wrong, which I have written here return x plus y, because I have written here void and this method is returning x plus y. So to tell the concept of void, I have written this, that void, if a method has a return type as void, it should not and it must not return any value. So if we are returning this value, that is x plus y, which is both integer, so the sum of this will be integer. If we return this, then we have to change this void to int. So specifically for this we should change the method signature as int. Okay, and this is the name of the method which we are having. So here add is the name of method, and these two things, very important thing, that is these variables int x and int y, these are called parameters. Okay, I think you got the concept. These are called parameters. So these parameters are used when we are going to call from so when we are going to call this method, add method, we are going to pass some we are going to pass the values for x and y. So suppose we have a simple class which having test class A, public static void main string x, and inside it we are going to call this. So suppose I create a new object for this class with to call this add method. Suppose I create a class. Suppose I create an object for this, and I am going to call this method in which this class is. Suppose this class is B, then I am going to create a new object for this B is equal to new B. Now I am going to call B dot add, and at this line B dot add, here I am going to pass 1 and 5. So I am actually passing this add method the values 1 and 5, and this one comes to x and this comes to y. So it is highly ordered, means order is very important here. if we interchange the order, then the variables will be interchanged. So order is very important here. Let me write it. Order is important. Now these two variables which are declared here, okay, which are declared here in the inside the parenthesis of the add method, these are called parameters, and these actual values which are passed are called as arguments. So I think you got the concept that parameters are the variables that are defined, that are used by defining an add method, that is which are used to define during a method declaration. Okay, so here is your method, and now you are calling this method by passing the value 1 and 5. So these 1 and 5 are arguments to this method, that is add method. So 1 comes to here and 5 comes to here, and 1 plus 5 we got 6 as the return type of return value of this add method. Okay, so I think you got the concept of parameters and arguments. Now let's discuss about local variables. What are local variables? Okay, local variables. So suppose the same thing, we have a class A, and inside it we have two variables, that is int x and int y. And inside it we have a method public void. Let me write it as a return type as int public int add. Okay, and inside it we have return and inside it we are going to have two variables, int p and int q, and we are simply returning here return p plus q. Okay, so now understand the concept here simply, which I am going to repeat for instance variables although. So all the variables, that is int x and int y, all the variables that are inside a class and outside a method are called as instance variables. And instance variables always get the default value. So at this line, suppose I call for the value of x and y, then I am going to get the value 0 for x and 0 for y because of the default value for integer. Now all the variables which are defined inside a method, that is p and q here, the variables which are defined inside a method, that is add here, are called as local variables. Local variables. Okay, I think you got the concept. Simply any variables which are defined inside a method are called as local variables, and they have the scope. That is a concept one also know about scope. That is scope. That is a scope is simply that the place where of the variable lives, the place till now a variable is going to live in the memory. So for local variables, they live, that is the scope is inside the parenthesis, they live inside this parenthesis. So this for P and Q we will say that the scope of this variable is this method, that is this method body. Outside this method's body, that is just below this line, I am not going to access these P and Q, and it will compile, it will show some error, that this P and Q is not declared. Okay, I think you got the concept here for the local variables. So what about the default value, instance variable? For instance variable we have always get the default value. What about these local variables? So point to be noted here, that for local variables we are never going to get default value. We must initialize the variables before using. For local variables, we must declare and initialize, which is very important here, initialize the variable. So here return type P plus Q. Here you can see I have not initialized the values P and Q, that is P is equal to 5 or Q is equal to 6, something like that. So this will have a compilation error here. Okay, it will not execute successfully just in case of instance variables. So we are going to get here compilation error. Okay, and we will see these examples, for instance variable default value and default and local variables value, that is if it is going to show this compilation or not. We are going to see this working in our computer. So let me conclude this video. In this video we learned about instance variables, local variables, parameters, arguments, return type, method signature. So I think you got the concept which I wanted to tell you in this video. So let's see you in the next video with those concept. Thank you very much.